factory. I mean, I don't have to explain this to you, but anyway, short overview. The plant, we have wrapper, binder and filler, of course. We make most of the binder and the wrapper we make in Sri Lanka, some in the Dominican Republic, and it happens on the way that you saw in the video with bobbins. So lots of mostly girls, they cut the tobacco on machines, they process tobacco first, they moisten it, they let it condition for 24 hours, for example, in humidity, so it's nice and flexible. And afterwards, they'll take it to bobbin machines where they cut leaf by leaf on a big bobbin. One bobbin holds about, depending on what size and what material you use, 8,000 to 12,000 cuts. And they are able to do approximately 700 cuts an hour. And I tried it. I mean, during my first years, I went on a lot of tobacco trips. I was there right in the morning, sitting on a bale, opening it, tasting the matafina, tasting the bazooki, doing everything. That I can do, but being in a bobbin factory and actually trying to get some speed in the cutting is very difficult. I mean, I'd probably do 50, an hour, and I'd be horrible for efficiency. So the yield would suck. But no, it's something they learn in the course of maybe half a year or a year. And it's about, in Sri Lanka we have about 1,500 people, 1,600 people doing this. And in the Dominican Republic we have currently I think about 90 to 100 machines running, as opposed to the 600 in Sri Lanka. Anyway, that's for the wrapper and the binder. So they arrive in bobbins. What we do here is make the filler. So we get the raw tobacco. Once it comes in, we always freeze it. And that's of course to avoid lasioderma. And that's going to be at -20 for 7 days, for example, 7 to 10 days. So to get rid of all the eggs, the beetles, if they are there, we don't want them in the factory, for obvious reasons. We strip the tobacco, we trash the tobacco, and we blend it here. That's the big machine you saw in the movie. Everything comes together basically on one machine. One machine, what it does is it holds 2 bobbins. Rubber bobbin, binder bobbin, and a filler tray where the filler goes into. We use colors for the filler, like say green, red, and also other indications to say it's small particle size, large particle size, all that stuff. And that's conditioned at about between say 12.5% humidity, more or less. So that would be around the humidity a cigar has when it's in the shop. In the humidor. Long film might be 13, but above 13.5 will get moldish. So it's about 12.5. So that happens here. We make the cigars. We have basically only pre-cut cigars here. So we cut the cigars, the head, the foot, and the head, and the fire end, and we box them. So you'll see lots of packing machines as well. After that, transportation to Duitsland, our headquarters. It doesn't look anything like what you saw in the movie just now anymore, because it's one big ruin at the moment. We live in porta cabins, because we're redoing everything. I'll show you a picture of what it's going to be like after the tour, but so we're living in containers now. But what we do there is the finishing of the products. And that basically is putting it in autos, providing it with cellophane, for example, tax stamps, warning labels, codes, barcodes, all that stuff. And then it goes out to the rest of the world, approximately 100 countries. And so every cigar you see has been here in Duitsland at some point. So let's go into the factory. We'll walk to the outside and we'll start with the door. So let's continue to the first part. What you will see here is storage of packing materials. So this is the packing area. This is also where we will finish the tour. So, but this is basically all empty boxes and
empty boxes and packing materials. It's a ship.
take it in here. Yeah, sure. Nobody knew probably that there was a curing barn in Belgium, but here we are. There's not a lot of tobacco being cured though, and if you will touch the tobacco there, you will feel it's not the perfect climate for curing. No, we had to spray it for fire prevention and all that stuff, so and the preservatives. But what we do here normally is we take people around, show them exactly what happens from seed to cigar, or to a finished tobacco anyway. So I guess all of you know the process, but let's take a short tour through it anyway. We have the seed beds here, and it's not the same in all countries, of course. They all use different methods, but one thing they have in common, that the seeds themselves have been pelletized. And normally if you take this amount of seeds, you will have thousands and thousands of seeds. You cannot see them with the eye. So what do they do? They cover them with fertilizer and all the essential nutrients for the first phase. You plant it in the ground, of course. And what you get are I believe you call them seedlings in English, until they've grown up to be a little bit stronger. That'll probably be in English sizes 6 inches or so. They will be transplanted to the fields in different phases. First phase, of course, small tobacco plants, and they can grow up to large tobacco plants, of course. Different sizes. If you use a Pilo Cubano from Dominican Republic, you will have 14 leaves, more or less. If you use the Olor, you will have closer to 22, 24, like Carlos said in the movie, leaves tobacco, ranging from this size to, what is it, 7 feet maybe, maybe even taller. What we always say in the Netherlands, we have our Sumatra heritage. So we call the bottom leaves, especially from Indonesia, sand leaves, because they grow close to the sand, of course. But those are, for Sumatra tobacco, the best leaves, most expensive leaves. Instead of, for example, if you go to Latin America, where Ligero is the most sold tobacco, the most sought after. And even for wrapper, it's not all about the sand leaf. So there's a big difference there. This part enough of a Sumatra leaf, I wouldn't use for any wrapper because it gets harsh. It's like the sand leaf. All the other tobaccos in the world, it's more like the Latin kind of, what do you call it, name? Volado, Ligero, Viso Seco. Yeah. Viso Ligero. And then you have the Corona, of course, which take off to get the last nutrients to the leaves. Primings, 2-3 leaves at once, and continue. This is a story you probably all know. So a cheesecloth or some kind of cloth like this, probably also quite familiar, which blocks out quite a lot of the UV light and enables a wrapper leaf to get its silkiness, its thinness, because otherwise it would be too thick. In Sumatra and Java, it's all sun-grown, however, so they don't use this. Most of it is. In Java they also have plantation-grown tobacco, which they call Sumatra, but really isn't Sumatra, but it's Sumatra grown on the soil of Java. And that has the cheesecloth or the UV blocker over it. So there's some differences. But this is basically what you'll see all over the world, right? So this plant will stay good for a while still. The curing of the leaves, which takes basically a dry air cure process, close to 40 days, depending on where you are. They lose about, let's say, 80% of their humidity. Stems lose their humidity, the leaf loses their humidity. You have some chemical compositions that change, of course, but as you know, the taste still isn't there. And you can see the different phases. It turns from green to brownish to half to yellow to brown, and this is where you get the basis for the color. But the magic happens, of course, during the fermentation phase. And again, this isn't a real life pilon, but kind of shows the idea of tobacco, right? You stack it, depending on the country again, how tall the pilons are. In Brazil, for example, they can be as big as this whole room, but in most countries they will be a lot smaller, but still a lot larger than this is. They get up to, depending on the country again, say you take Ecuador tobacco, 45 degrees, maybe a little bit higher. Then you turn it and the outside leaves go to the inside, build up pressure. Without oxygen you get the, what they call it, anaerobic effect. The microbiological changes, and that's where the magic happens. That's where you get the taste. You got to get it exactly right. There's no fixed date for it. But once the temperature stops increasing, that's when you have to change the pilon and change the leaves again. Take too long, and tobacco will kind of start to rot or lose its taste. And do it too short. Well, we've all had green tobacco before, I think. You will remember it, and that's not a good thing. Okay, the baling starts afterwards, and here we have some examples of tobacco grown in the world. It's not a complete list. There will be other countries of origin, but these are some of the tobaccos we use a lot. The Arabica, the Brazilian tobacco, the other Brazilian tobacco. So it's not the Matafina area, not the Mata Norte area. This is tobacco used for mainly for wrapper leaf. And of course Java Bazuki, which is both filler, binder and wrapper, and which is an aromatic, kind of mild taste, very specific. If you have the good farmers Bazuki, especially from the northern part of Bazuki, and it's a small area, but that's really, really nice and tasty. But it's not used a lot for handmade, for example. The Bahia tobacco, so that's either Matafina, Mata Norte, Mata Sul, and this is the Salvador area. It's famous for its sweet, aromatic and earthy tobacco, one of my personal favorites. Sumatra, I told you enough about Sumatra. The Cameroon tobacco, which is still there but used to be so much bigger. Not only in cigars on the market, but also, say, our original Meharis Java, which dates back to, I think, 76, used Cameroon as a wrapper. And back then the French were still running the show. And they did a great job. So reliable crops, everything. But that changed once they went away. And well, now you have only a small bit of Cameroon still. Like Meerapfel and CDF are the only ones that are still growing some Cameroon. And only the best part is really worthwhile. So it's a pity, but that's sometimes how it goes. And the same goes, by the way, for Sumatra tobacco, which is ruined by the Indonesian government, because it's government run. The PT they call it, and they had like 30, maybe 40, 15 plantations back in the days, 100,000 bales plus. That's a lot of wrapper leaf, right? 100,000 bales, you can imagine. Nowadays, we have exactly now, we have the inscription of Sumatra in Bremen, which is not an inscription anymore, not an auction anymore. It's not enough people buying it anymore. But there's only 1,100 bales left still. And we still use it, and some 3 other companies still use it as well. But it's gone down and down and down. There's only 3 plantations left, which is really a shame, come to think of it, because this is such a nice, peppery and flavorful tobacco. It's just a waste to let it go away. And it's one of the most expensive crops in the world. Wrapper leaf can be to say for the best primaries, best colors, best taste, everything. You can pay well up of 120 euros per kilo. So they kind of killed the chicken with the golden eggs, they call it, right? So it's a pity, but there's still some out there, and the good stuff we still use. For example, the Balmoral Sumatra and the Hivekar products. Hivekar is a really small brand, so we don't really need a lot of it. But, okay. Ecuador tobacco, well, I have to tell you just one short story about Ecuador tobacco. Because before, I'd probably say 1990, there was hardly any Ecuador tobacco. With the Boris family, ASB, we started as their first clients together with Imperial Tobacco at that time. And I don't know if any of you guys know the story of their family, but they were in Nicaragua. They were chased away during the Sandinist time. They almost didn't survive. They were protected by their own people on their estate, and they almost got themselves killed. But that was before. That was after they already came from Cuba. So they had one of those stories you'll find in the tobacco industry more often, right? But they took their entrepreneurial spirit, Don Alfredo, and he went to Ecuador to find a piece of land. Because he investigated everything. This is going to be it. When the soil is good, you have the natural shade from the Andes, and that's what we started with in probably 91, 92 as one of their big clients. And so we grew along with them, and now, to my eyes, at least they're one of the most beautiful and well-run plantations, bar none, in the world. As Jeremy Clarkson would say, in the world. Okay, they're good friends of ours, obviously, but it's humidity control. And humidity control starts at the beginning. You don't want tobacco to go up and down and up and down. And once you add too much humidity, or you don't have the total conditioning process under control, your tobacco will go, and what's the most expensive part, of course, of a cigar, it's the tobacco. You can lose a lot, you can gain a lot there. That's why we freeze all of our bobbins during the transport to keep the humidity at the same level, so you don't have to re-humidify it. And once they arrive at the factory, this is where we store them. It's cold, but not unbearable.
It is pretty chilly in here.
It's chilly. No fridge. This is where we stock about, say, 3 months of bobbin capacity normally. It can go up from 2 to 4 months. That's our buffer. So, I invite you to...
what's the temperature here?
It's minus 10, I think.
Minus 10.
Minus 10, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like minus 10, it's dry.
This is great. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
You came from Miami, right?
Yeah.
Staying here for a while.
It's a nice change. We'll come back, stay here for 10 minutes, and then I'll make you change your mind.
Some used bobbins that will be sent back to be filled with tobacco. And Bentley.
Pick one up.
Pick one up. Let's play catch. I don't think they'd like that. It's pretty large.
Yeah. All wrapper leaf.
Or will be when it's refilled.
And it's powerful. And it's accurate, but also has a slight fermentation. It's one of the tobaccos that you don't get full fermentation because it's used straight away for, say, in the cigarette tobacco industry as well. This is too expensive, this stuff, but it's basically based on subsidies in Europe. They receive a lot of subsidies. Once that totally disappears, it will go down and down and down. That's what's happening now. They also have some, for example, in Spain. We also use that. This is the stuff we use for, say, a week or so, maybe a little bit more, because it's about, let's say, 25 to 30 tons of tobacco being processed there weekly. So we have tobacco, Java. We also do some stuff for Montesfina, for clients, so you will also see some tobaccos we don't use, but we process it for other people. So guys, if you'd step up here a little bit, then I can show you how the process works. We're actually threshing tobacco and classifying tobacco and blending it in a short fill style, obviously. So we made some clips to make it more understandable, because it's a very big machine with lots of processing steps. But this way you can see it in a more schematic way. What you do is, the blending starts right here. You take a few bales of this, you take a few bales of that, and you start putting it in. 10 of this, 4 of that, say 4 bales of Matapina, 6 bales of Dominican or whatever. And we slice the tobacco. But the tobacco has been in the vacuum chamber before to get the steam on the inside of the bale, because that's the hardest part, to get also to moisten the tobacco on the inside of the bale. And we slice the tobacco because then you get small slices of tobacco, easier to humidify. And then we use these, what do you call them? I don't know.
Spinning blades or something?
To make it loose, like right? And the tobacco is weighed and tested on humidity. So we know exactly how much moist to add to the tobacco to be at the exact right percentage. And what's important to know is that basically every type of tobacco has its own settings. Because it takes years to have this machine run properly, basically, with all the different kinds of settings. Brazil is a lot thicker and more difficult to open up from a bale than, for example, say Spanish Havana or Burley or even Java. So, first, the second important part is to humidify the tobacco. So you have your steam and your water that's added. The tobacco is now nicely loose on the conveyor belt. And we have a conditioning cylinder. And in this cylinder, you add some extra humidity. What it does as well is have a feedback loop. It can measure the output on humidity and readjust the input on humidity. So you get the exact right humidity percentage. Once again, humidity is of the essence. Through the whole process, you want to be able to control as well as possible. Obviously, foreign materials, you want to get them out. So we have a magnet, we have Velcro, we have even a photo machine to take all the foreign objects out. And you will see that later on. It is like you have a stroboscope, and every time it sees something that could be foreign, a valve opens, the foreign object drops out. And also you need to reprogram that for every type of tobacco. Brazil is darker, you have your lighter tobaccos. So now it's humidified. Here you can actually see that the tobacco is being cut. Now you have to separate the stems from the tobacco. You want to lose as little tobacco as possible. And the humidification is also an important step here, because the drier you make the tobacco, the more you will lose. But you don't want to get it too wet. So here you will see, I don't know how to call this part in English. But what happens here is you beat the tobacco, the thresher you would say. You beat the tobacco until it gets smaller. The heavier parts, they fall down. And the lighter parts, they go up. Stems are heavier than tobacco itself, so tobacco leaf goes up, stems go down. And we repeat this several steps in a row. So the first bit would be a bit more rudimentary, larger parts, until at the end you still have a little bit of tobacco on the stem, and you want to even get that little bit off the stem, of course. So that's this whole line.
That's quite a line.
Yeah, we're going to see everything. But you want to have the particle size right as well. For a bigger cigar, you want bigger particle size, but also a nice distribution of particles. Say, have enough of 8 millimeters, have enough particles of 13 millimeters, have a nice distribution. So this is another important part. And the sieve will determine if it's the right particle size. If it's too big, it will re-enter the machine. And like you saw with the threshing, you saw a cylinder with holes in it. There's probably some standing there, but the holes also determine the size of the particles. So you have different cylinders for different steps in the process. once again, removal of foreign parts. So you have Velcro to get all the foreign materials out. So you have different types of removers for different types of material. You'd be able to throw your watch in and receive it somewhere in the process. I wouldn't recommend it though, but might get trashed. So this is the camera system, and that basically puffs out all the bad parts in the tobacco. You know, chickens run around on plantation. You have some of the ropes sometimes, of the bales. I mean, these come from sometimes third world countries, and you know, you want to get all the stuff out. So this is the first phase, but let's take a look at what actually happens. So that's what the vacuum chamber does. It uses what do you call it, onderdruk, pressure. Yeah, it draws out the air, so it draws the humidity into the bale. So this is where you loosen the tobacco.
Loosening tobacco.
Right there, you will see the bale that was just dense and black is now nice and loose. But it's not nearly humid enough still.
Oh yeah, that's the money shot right there.
The money shot. Oh, there we go. Tobacco being loosened. Heading up that way. This tobacco is getting shaken, getting steamed. Something's shaking up there. Shaking and stirring.
It's
super humid.
It gets, it's very humid and nice and soft, and it will open up. But this is what you need to beat the tobacco, basically.
Yeah. So that's all steam pouring off of there, basically.
Conditioning cylinder. This is really precise in adding the exact amount of humidity you need.
And you have to key it into different types of tobacco,
different
right?
Types of tobacco. Most of the tobacco will benefit from 22% of humidity here.
22%.
Yeah. In the tobacco itself, right? You can feel it, smell it.
Look at that. Ooh. Such tobacco. So moist. I'm taking a video of you taking a video. This is awesome. These are inside the machines, and they help control the size of the tobacco chunks that get through. See tobacco all on them.
Steps go down, the lighter parts are being sucked up, right? So the steps that are heavy, they are
Classifier.
go to the stripper, and yeah. Classifier, they basically will take the stuff. The tobacco that's being sucked up is finished. It's done. So the parts that go down go to the next phase, go to the next phase.
Make that my screensaver. This is the fourth classifier. There are 4 of these monstrous machines. Look at all that. The other side of the classifier. This is the machine that uses photography to detect problems with tobacco and drop it out, apparently. It's not running right now. Reflective. There you go.
Okay, so this is where we blend the blend. So once it's been threshed, we start with the next tobacco. We build it basically layer on layer. And you see two large bunkers here with the tobacco in it, and they will take a layer on top of one another. And these devices, rolling devices, they put it out and they blend. They make the blend basically. After which, tobacco is still too humid. So what do? So why do we use two bunkers? Because one will be filled and the other one will be ready to put the tobacco out, right? Let's see if it works. Yes. So the tobacco is still too humid, right? So what we do is we heat it up so it loses its humidity faster. And we dry it back. Because the thing is, in the end, yeah? No. This is not the baking part. Forget about the second fermentation. Forget it. No, this is the way you lose humidity. So you lose it easier if you heat it up a little bit, and then it goes down, loses its humidity, and we drop it like below, a little bit below 12%. So in the end, you can add a little bit humidity to make it exactly right. Because it's easy to control if you add a little bit than to lose it all like homogeneous. So what happens finally, of course, you have the blend. You put it into kind of a, what do you call it, a master case. It gets a color labeling, it gets a weight, it gets the humidity percentage, and a code, and it goes off to the production. Right. Let's take a look. We can, if you like to, we can walk up here and see what goes into the bunkers.
And the tobacco is still on the move. It's always going somewhere, up or down, in or out.
One layer per tobacco, for example Java, on top Ecuador, Matafina, and then the blending process starts, layer by layer.
Yeah. Layer by layer, the tobacco is added.
Production assistant, Eric Salvino.
These are the secret recipes. Because when the blend is finished, we give it a name. The name has a color. So we call it blend yellow, or blend blue, blend black. And only a few people at the company know exactly, okay, how was the blend made up. We all know the type of tobacco going in, but not the exact components. That's good.
So this is in effect the blending.
This is the blending. Yeah. First step before the blending.
How does the weight of comparable size cigar compare machine?
In the weight of the first cigar?
Yeah.
There's not a real big difference. It depends on the size.
Blending in process. Ben, what do you think of what you've just seen?
Pretty impressive. what's amazing is the lack of people that are in this facility.
I know, right? It's very automated.
It's this whole facility is about the size of 2 to 3 football fields, and we've seen maybe 5 or 6 employees total in this area.
Yep, just the bare minimum of people required to keep it running. Probably they're all mechanics, I'm guessing, just looking for something breaking.
Yeah, well, there's 2 guys right here where we're at in this area that all they're doing is sorting the big master bulk tobaccos. So they were doing that. Other than that, I'm not really sure what the other guys are doing. So,
Yeah, waiting for something to break, I guess.
I guess.
Some of our history. You mentioned it dates back to 1904. And my great-grandfather started with the company. He lent 200 guilders from his parents, from his father. That's why he called it A. Wintermans and Sons, and not give it his own name, which is Jack or Jacques. So A. Wintermans and Sons was A. Wintermans was his father. That's how he started out. Small, like anybody else, 200 guilders. So right up front in Duisel, where our headquarters is, he had his cigars made. Small factory. This is already a larger factory, so we started pretty small. And he took a tram that led to Eindhoven, first big place. And we got our tobacco from all over the world, right? From the Dutch trading tobacco. And Eindhoven was one of the places where you could actually get it. And in the south of Holland, well, I'll explain later as well, but we had large Catholic families, cheap labor, we had access to tobacco, but we also had a tram line, like a train coach going to Eindhoven. And that's where he went with his molds and his cigars to sell the first cigars. That was in 1904. We grew quite quickly, but to be honest, until say halfway the century, we were still a mid-sized company, and there were tons of companies that were bigger. We actually had a few hundred cigar producers in our region, and that's our region only. So we were one of them. In 25, my great uncle joined the company. 26, my grandfather. This is my grandfather. Looks a bit like my father, but he joined in 26. And like everybody, you need some successes in history. And for us, the milestones were new product development. Like, for example, the Gouden Oogst, which is in Dutch it would be, in English it would be golden harvest. In those times we used to powder cigars, like basically painted with tobacco dust. And it has kind of this yellow, golden look to it. So that's why it's called golden harvest. It was a pity because we used A-grade Sumatra and then you go and paint it, but that was that time. And everybody used to smoke those. Like I told someone yesterday, like 160, more or less 160 cigars per capita in Holland. So that's 1.5 billion cigars for a country with 16, now in that time, not 10 million people. So, go figure, right? But that was an important one. This was our 50th anniversary cigar. And another one was the tip, which is funny when I think of it. I was talking to Jonathan 2 days ago, and he told me about the Wilde Havana, how we saw it in the Netherlands, and he had this wild butt on the cigar, right? And he took this idea to the States and started developing with that. Well, my grandfather, he started with tip cigars. He said he saw this in the States, and he thought, we don't have this, so let's do that. And that's our second phase for us, was really important. Because that gave us also a nice volume, and we sold a lot of that in France, and all over Europe. So it was an important one as well. And then we have some milestones here. Opening up the factory in Belgium, which gave us a lot more scale. Our first move abroad to Malta. You know, nowadays it's maybe Vietnam, Cambodia, all those countries, China. But in those days, we called it Operation Moon Trip, because it was, you know, like, if my grandfather, if people could travel to the moon, then we can go to Malta, you know. And we were the first ones in that time to do this, so he had this entrepreneurial spirit. My grandfather was more the entrepreneur, and my great-granduncle, or what it's called, my grand-uncle, whatever, Agio, he was more the tobacco guy, production guy. And So they moved to Malta. Lots and lots of hand work at that time. Like hundreds and hundreds of people working in a factory. Here in Belgium we employed like 800, 900 people just making the cigars. Right, important step, labor cost-wise, competitively. And also we started to internationalize, and that was also an important thing, because moving from the 50s and the 60s to now, say 70s and 80s, a lot changed. People started smoking cigarettes. Bigger cigars became smaller. They didn't want painted cigars anymore. So you need new product development. And to tell you the truth, if we wouldn't have innovated in the last 10, 15 years, we would have lost at least 40% of our total production. So, you know, if somebody says cigars innovation doesn't make sense, then you're out of business. So internationalization was the acquisition of Panther and Belmont. So, I mean, Belmont has been around since 1895, and it was made in another part of the Netherlands. But in '83 we bought it from Dow Edwards. That for us was a very important strategic move. Because now we had Agio brand, we had Panther, and we had Belmont. Belmont was always premium, and we made premium cigars in the past as well. But it gives you more flexibility, and you know, I don't have to complain anything about brand portfolios, but it gave us the opportunity to move into another segment as well. And Panther is now, we basically built those brands up from smaller brands to bigger brands, internationalized, and made it what they are today. So important dates in. After Malta, we moved to Sri Lanka. And Sri Lanka is one of those other big milestones for us. First time to work with the bobbin system. Nobody else in the industry worked with it. So we made bobbins for the whole world. Everybody at some point was a client until they, you know, years afterwards started for themselves, which makes sense. Obviously, if you have the size. But we're still in Sri Lanka. We employ about 1,500, 1,600 people there. And they make our daily cuts. And as in Dominican Republic, we started there in 1990. So last year we celebrated our 25th anniversary, which was also a big milestone. But right here, and we expanded our factory just last year. So whenever you're in the Dominican Republic or Sri Lanka for that matter, feel free to call us. You're always welcome, of course. And well then, this building, in which we are now, is from 2002, when we walked through
2002 for this building.
And end up with the 2008 part. So, built in 2 phases, and that's where it ends. But an important part is as well, our 100-year anniversary of 2004, and I was just explaining, we received a royal warranty, and that means basically that you behave for 100 years, which is very good. 2 world wars in between, right? So, and you've always been good for your like socially responsibility, internationally active, and all that stuff. They put you through the grinders for 12, 13 months. Nobody knows what the outcome will be until a few days ahead of the actual date, and then it's a surprise whether you will receive it or not. But say 10, 11 years ago, luckily it wasn't that anti-smoking still, and the royal family decided. Okay, you get your certificate, you get your warranty, and you're part of the exclusive club of maybe 140, 150 companies, like Royal Dutch Shell, Royal Dutch Airlines.
Maybe a small detail, at that moment we changed our logo, and the logo you see a little crown, but it used to be 3 coins. Because of the royal wand, we changed very slightly our logo, and now it's crowned like you see it over there.
Is it wrong to consider it sort of like a corporate knighthood?
I like that.
A corporate knighthood.
Free of charge.
Yeah. No, we don't have knights, but we have titles. Okay, so So this is how a cigar is made on a machine. You will see 2 different types of machines. But the most important thing here is getting the filler, of course, and making the bunch as a first step. You will see the filler that was made in the filler part, and you will see the binder leaf. And just like
you would make on one of those old, say, cigarette machines. It's made like that. A bit of glue on it, construction glue obviously, but you know, some natural glue, and it's rolled as a bunch. So this is what we call a bunch. So then, instead of using, say, the pressure, how do you call them, molds, we use this. It's heat to give it that extra bit of shape. And it's pressed for 4 or 5 minutes until it goes into the rolling device. Now you take the wrapper. Now you take the wrapper, and the cigar is spinning in this rolling device, right? And this wrapper leaf, the needle takes it off, the bobbin, and the cigar keeps spinning, the bunch keeps spinning, so it rolls itself. Then it's taken out, its head is shaped, and it's cut. And basically you have the cigar, but as you will see, the cigar and the wrapper and the binder have been moistened, especially not the filler tobacco, the binder and the wrapper. So it's now more human. If you take a cigar off the bell, you can actually bend it. It will not break. It will be, say, around 18% humidity, between 16 and 18, depending on what kind of dryer we use to get the first humidity out. So this is how a cigar on a machine is made. We have two types of machines. We have machines for HDL binders, which they only need a wrapper. And we have, say, the 100% MIR machines. And those MIR machines, we have them in different speeds. They can both make bunches and wrappers. And what we do in the Dominican Republic, if you talk about machine made, we don't use bobbins for the wrapper, because we can cut them on the machines. Labor is cheaper there, and it's more efficient. So you don't have to put it on a bobbin and put the bobbin on the machine and then unwind the bobbin and stuff. So you do it directly on the machine. So the lady cuts and she sees the direct result as well, which is also good. We have different speeds. All these machines are pretty fast, but say the older ones, they would run up to MIDs, they call it, the wrapper device. They would run up to 50 a minute. These guys would run up to, say, if you have a fast one, 42 a minute, and the slower ones, the older ones, 22 to 24 for the bigger sizes and oddly shaped sizes. Figurados, for example. And these machines, however, run at a speed of 100. That's the newest type of machine that's been around, and it's been developed last year by ATD, and that's what's sold now to companies that need this kind of speed. But as you can imagine, it's also, as always with cigars, you have left and right machines, left and right leaves, right? So every cigar or every machine works with a pair. You need a right and a left for those bobbins. And one operator, in this case, services 4 working stations. And you will see also on the bobbins a big L or a big R, left, right. And you can make the distinction between wrapper and binder, because the wrapper is always a bit slimmer and sometimes has a curvy end to make the shape of the head, for example. And the binder will have more of a, what do you call it? A larger size with, what's that called?
Like a trapezoid or something like that, or?
Yeah, like a rectangle, then like this, exactly. Okay.
Parallelogram. There we go. That's it. Parallelogram.
Parallelogram. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Great. 10 points.
Making cigars. heating wrapper. Or perhaps that's binder, actually.
What you'll see here is the Maharis being packed, and they would do about, I think, 50,000 cigars an hour.
50,000 an hour.
50, yeah. 50,000. Yeah, it's faster than making them. So, luckily. By the way, all the rooms in this factory are conditioned, so the air is conditioned to approximately 60% humidity, relative humidity, to keep everything in check. And basically all the cigars we make on the machine are, except for Balmoral and premium cigars in the Dominican Republic, are transported to our headquarters in Duitsland. I'm sorry, all these machines are made by